Tricaster essentially is a production studio in a box. It's a Windows-based computer that they have integrated video cards into that are able to transmit high-definition video to stream over the internet or take outputs of and broadcast it live over television. Doesn't really matter as long as you can get that input where it needs to, or that output where it needs to go. You can broadcast anywhere.
Video toaster, 20 years ago.
The video toaster, absolutely. And up until a couple years ago, when you called new tech support, they had a little jingle all about the video toaster. That was really annoying when they had you on hold for more than 5 minutes, because the jingle was only about 1.5 minutes long. I did a very basic setup. It's not necessarily the setup you'd want. It's a little bit with the size of the room. You want to be, the way this is designed is to be compact, but at the same time completely useful in an entire production studio all in one. So that's why we have your audio board. You have a full working comm system with talkback and abilities for your announcers. We have the ability to hook up a 3-play if the school were to be interested in purchasing one, or when we bring in one for Game of the Week for the West Coast Conference, Game of the Week games. So we actually built it with dual purpose. One for everyday game that you guys can produce, and one for a little bigger show if necessary. Just going over a little bit of the front of the Tricaster here. These are all of your video inputs. So we have caps on cameras 5 and 6, but there are 6 camera ins, and then we reserve 2 for instant replay. So there are actually 8 video inputs. And then with this, we got you a Micro Video Hub Blackmagic router. It's a 16 input router. So we have up to 16 inputs into it. So we have 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. That's useful if you needed to bring in a DVC Pro deck and put something onto the Tricaster via DVC Pro. You can go ahead and input it into 9 as an extra input. You can control your micro hub through this computer with the program that we have installed in it. Or at least I believe I installed in it. If not, I'll do that before I leave. Yep. This program right there, that is a Blackmagic, it controls your router, so you can take the same input, you can put it in the same output 5 different times. It doesn't really matter. So if I had, a bar generator or bar and tone generator plugged into camera 1 here, I can have it show up on all 8 inputs just by manipulating the router. So especially with audio, it's designed to plug in, plug in. There's not outs and ins that you have to worry about. Everything is an in, basically. You just plug from one point to the other. Kept the language as simple as possible. But as you can see with our router right now, we have it set up. There are 8 inputs for the Tricaster. There are 8 inputs for the 3-play. We have that set up as 1 through 6 or 1 through 6. Red and blue, which is our terminology when we use replays, is red and blue instead of A and B, because a lot of things can be A, a lot of things can be B. Only 2 things in our truck, or only 1 thing in our truck is red, and only 1 thing is blue. We know exactly what we're calling at all times with that. 3-play, cameras 1 through 6 go in 3-play inputs 1 through 6, which are found right here. And then Tricaster Program 1 and Program 2 are set right here. And that's so you can record program on the 3-play at all times. You can record program on the Tricaster, so you don't need to worry about that. You can also record ISO feeds if you need to. So yeah, first row, we have our Tricaster inputs. Second row here is all of our PL systems, the party line. Some people refer to it as just a telex system. That's kind of like saying Kleenex is a tissue. But it is a brand name. Under there is our PL power supply. So that is actually powering up everything. Is what gives all the talk boxes power, so you don't have to have an extra battery or anything like that. And all that power is just distributed right through the XLR lines. It's power up your talk boxes. That's so the directors, camera, graphics, TD, that's so everybody can talk to each other. Then we have the 3-play ins, which you guys don't need to really worry too much about. Unless, of course, you wanted to record or on a separate device or something like that, or send just an ISO camera feed somewhere. The situation may arise where you need to, so that's a way of doing it. Each one of these is going to be an output of whatever camera it is that is going into the Tricaster, as you can see from our router. The row beneath this is, we'll include it all as one. This is your audios. Over here on your left side, I had to think about that for a second. On your left side is your audio ins to the Tricaster. So this is your program, your effects, and your spare. The program and effects all come from your audio board. All your audio essentially has to hit this first before you can route it into the Tricaster. We have it so that all the audio goes directly to channels 1 and 2. So I'm actually going to open this session up. So your program effects, your program mics are going to go in on channel 1. That's going to be your announcers and any audio that comes over their headset. So if you need to have them hooked up on a stick mic, which we've provided to do a stand-up, that's where you would have it come in. If they're just on headset, that's still where it would come in. All the audio that is in the program mix goes straight through there. Everything that's in the effects mix goes into channel 2, and those are right here as effects left and effects right. That is just going to be your effects microphones. Whether or not it's going to be off of a camera or if it's going to be shotgun mics that you placed underneath the baskets to get that nice, wonderful whoosh sound that we all love to hear. We keep those separate because we need to send those separate places at some times. The effects audio goes when we bring in a 3-play. You don't want to have the call on every single clip. So we assign just the effects audio to go over to the 3-play so when you actually do backtrack it or when you make a melt or anything like that, it would be a clean version, essentially. You would just have the effects audio. You wouldn't have to worry about the announcers, what they're talking about, cutting up stuff, so you might cut them in the middle of a word or something like that, for making highlight packages, all that other stuff. So that's the reason why we have it separated. In the older version of Tricaster, we actually had that all come in on one input, and it would be a line quad system, which would be basically your second input would disappear, and all 4 of those would condense into one, so you can control them all at one time, not have to worry about it. With the new upgrade, they've changed that, and they took that option away from us. So now it's channel 1 is going to be your program, and channel 2 is going to be your effects mics. This is the new setup for the audio mixer. It used to be they would have an external sources and internal sources. They put all of that on one page, so it's all there readily available at any given time. On your handouts, you'll notice that the layout on that is strikingly different from the layout on this. That's the 855's layout. This is the 860, so we got you guys an upgrade because they released, let's see, they released the 860 and the 8000, I want to say 2 weeks after we bought all of these. So they New Tech, very nice of them, said, we'll give you the updates for free since you bought it after a certain date and so close. So you guys got the lovely new toy. These are your audio outputs from the Tricaster. The top two, we have program left and right here, effects left and right here. On the second row, it's DDR left and right, and transitions left and right. This is a new thing for the 860. Before, we had to group everything into one group. We named it green because they gave us the color options. And you only ever had the option of mono DDR, mono effects. With the new Tricaster, it's all stereo now. So So that is one beneficial for anybody paying attention and actually listening to any broadcast other than on headphones. And it just brings a little bit more depth to your product. Those connect, these are the outputs of those. They connect over here to the back of our audio board. And like I said earlier, it's very simple. DDRs left and right, 1, 2. Effects, or transition effects left and right, 3 and 4.
What are the transition effects?
Transition effects are your wipe sounds.
Oh,
so I'll actually...
Is it called wipe sounds? I didn't realize we had wipe sounds.
Yes. I have, each Tricaster comes loaded up with all of the transitions that we have from the conference. So every school in the conference has their own wipe. And we also have 3 separate, I will turn that up as loud as I could, so hopefully we can hear it over here. So you can hear it off of there, because that's the announcer headset. So each one has a sound to it. Let's see. That was actually way too fast. We gotta slow that one down.
I turned the rate up a little bit last night.
It happens. Ooh, that was pretty close. So yeah, each one has its own sound associated with it. So in the past, it had only been one channel, faded to the right. So it was, not even a full channel of mono, basically. It was kind of a half mono channel. Now that's full stereo. And same thing with, whoops.
I know you're probably not covering today, but is there somewhere I can go to learn how to build those transitions?
I can cover that. It's really quickly, actually. It's not very hard.
Last weekend we had NCAA volleyball, so we couldn't use those.
Yeah.
So I just grabbed one of the built-in ones. But
yeah.
It's nice to have one that, for those times.
Absolutely. And that's really actually not a very hard thing to do.
Okay.
Tricaster built in a way of doing it into the Tricaster, so yeah, it's not really hard. The stuff before you get to the Tricaster is more difficult than the actual building it on the Tricaster. So yeah, with our audio outs, this is all completely programmable now. This is a new feature with the 860. They hadn't had that before in the past. So we can send different audio different places through the Tricaster system. The way it works basically is there's a master 1 and a master 2, an aux 1 and an aux 2. Those directly correlate with these outputs. So these two right here, the Tricaster program left and right, are master 1. The ones that we have labeled as Tricaster effects left and right is master 2. What we have labeled as DDRs is aux 1. And what we have labeled as transitions is aux 2. So with basically everything in the Tricaster has options. It's always represented by a gear wheel. So if you can see by any chance, every one of these audio inputs up here has a gear wheel right underneath its name. So if we click on DDR1s, for instance, we'll see that it's panned, A is panned all the way to the left, B is panned all the way to the right. That's the way you want it for a stereo mix. And then routing underneath is just selected aux 1. So that audio is going nowhere else except for out of this aux 1. So the only place it's going is into this board and then going back into the Tricaster through the program mix. So it's a little bit of a loop, but when it's set up all correctly, there's no feedback, hopefully. Actually, no, when it's set up correctly, there is no feedback. So that's a brief thing of audio. A couple things they have added that are new. They have a way of monitoring audio for records. This is a new thing. It's so simple that I can't believe it hasn't been there in the past, but it's muchly needed now. So that's audio. With previous Tricasters, there's still 2 DDRs. which has been loaded up with a couple of different things. DDR1 and DDR2. Ooh, we have a commercial. So commercial's loaded up. Compared to what is on this CS panel, which, by the way, this is your lovely CS panel. CS just stands for Control Surface. Very, very high-end naming over at NewTek. You can control everything from this panel that you can with the mouse, with a couple little options here and there. You can't change whatever resolution you're taking in with the control panel, but you can do that on the mouse. So you can up convert and down convert if you want to up convert to 720, but your camera runs are longer than 300 feet, which HD is going to be able, which is all HD is able to be able to carry over copper. You can set all your cameras to 480, send it over 480, go half a mile with your camera run, and then it's going to up convert to 720 for its output, or 1080. Granted, the more up converting you do, the dicier the video is going to get, but it is possible. There are a couple differences, though, from the board to what you see on the screen. There are two buttons right here, still in title. They have been changed to Graphics 1 and Graphics 2. This is a way that if you have just a still image, nothing that needs to be changed at all during the game, nothing that would require changing, you can go ahead, import it, set it up in your graphics tab, and have your switcher be able to bring it up at any point in time just as an input. Works best with full screens, stuff like those that you would affect to get away from the action. And then there's also still the sound tab, which once again, if you wanted to have music come in underneath and you didn't want to run the music through your audio board, it's a way of playing the music. Not used very often, but it is an option that's there. All of those, the DDRs, the two graphics, and the sound tab, can be controlled from this little panel right here on the CS panel. This one right here. Gives you all your options, DDRs, 1, 2, still, title, sound, and you could actually select multiples at the same time. So if you had a graphic that you wanted to play a certain track of music with at the same time, and you wanted them both to play at the same time, that's what you would do. So options where you never have to put your hand on the mouse. That is my goal as a switcher. As a technical director, when I'm switching a game, I never want to take my hands off the panel. I never want to have to worry about anything in the mouse area. That's something that you should only worry about pre-game. Our computer's falling asleep. Oh, there it goes. Now, if you look at the layout that is given to you in the pamphlet, you will see that there are actually 5 different rows of buttons. Or actually, no, there's the 3 there. If you look, there's only 2 here. The Mix Effects bus has been, the location had been hidden. It used to be in a tab along all the DDRs. So it used to be on this side down here, you would have DDR1, and then you would have all your virtual input options, and then external audio was the one at the end. And then in the other one, it was sound, tab, title, DDR2, and the internal audio. This has been changed, so it's much more like an actual, a larger style switcher. So those 8 tabs are now in a drop-down menu labeled Mix Effects. The term virtual input, which is still being used on the 855's CS panel, has now been changed by Tricaster to be Mix Effects. That's more for technical directors who are used to bigger setups. You have different Mix Effects buses that you can create, layer things on top of each other. And that's essentially what you're doing with this. except for Tricaster used to call it virtuals. They've jumped on the bandwagon and have now called it mix effects. So with this, you can set up every single one of these mix effects rows either on here, or you can go ahead and pre-build them on the interface. On the board, these are your mix effects buttons. The overlay row, they kind of got rid of. It's still usable, but they've downplayed it a lot more. And these are how you control your different inputs. I can either select it to follow preview, so whatever I'm previewed, it's going to bring up whatever I have set up in each one of those virtual inputs. But a virtual input, like I said, it's basically how you layer things. So when we set up a graphic, or when we set up a overlay to put on the wipe, that's in graphics 1, so still over DDR2. So I'm actually gonna so as of right now, we have the still, which is our lovely W.TV logo, over our BYU commercial. Now, there are two options to get that to be back up in the corner like a nice little bug should. There's either with this, as I can adjust it on the keyboard in-game and move it wherever I need it to be. That's one option. And then the other option, once I get the mouse out from underneath this panel, would be to go in my, take the mouse, go to my mix effects row that I have as graphics 1, and over to the left, right before it says A, which is no group, which is not in a group, there's a little circle with 4 different arrows pointing 4 different directions in it. That is where you can either position everything and you get your actual numbers as far as what coordinate you're on the XY plane, what rotation you're in for that logo, because I can, oops, I can flip it. Ooh. I can rotate it. I could crop it in and out. So I can do all of this different stuff, or I can reset it back to where it was and go ahead and bring it back in. And as I do that, all these numbers are going to change. Or I can say I know exactly that I want it at -130 on the x-axis and -65 on the y-axis. Go ahead, plug that in, type it in, it's going to go right to that location. I can set it on 1 and then save that as a preset and go ahead and transfer it over to other inputs instead of setting up 5 different inputs all the same. These are just options that you have. And even within that, when we switch bigger shows and you need multiple inputs, say you have 2 graphic sources, a score bug, and you need to have a watermark on your replays. With that, you can set 1 as your main game camera with your score bug in it. You could set 2 as a backup with the score bug in it in case you need to fade underneath or cut underneath the bug. Mostly fade for that situation. You could set up 3 and 4 to be the same thing, but with different graphic setups, either Chiron A, Chiron B, which are what we use in bigger shows. And then red and blue with the watermarks over it, and then you can, if you wanted to have a 2-box, because I know Campus Insiders has provided different 2-box setups in the past. And if you're doing a production outside of anything with Campus Insiders, if you have someone who wants to build something that's a 2-box setup or anything like that, totally possible to do, and it's all available as options to do there. So I can take any one of my setups, or any source, lay it over another source, and then even within that, there are frame buffers for each one of the inputs. So if I route something through a frame buffer, which is one way we do in our big trucks, we do back channel of Chiron graphics is through a macro on the Chiron that sends it to frame buffer 4 in our case, and so anything can be sent to that, and that's all through Ethernet as well.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So right now you've got V1 set up as on the A bus is still, on the B bus is DDR2.
DDR2, yes.
So now if you change over here V2 with the smaller V2 buttons, now you're setting up V2, is that correct?
Yes.
And so it will always remember what V1 is until you change it?
Yes.
Okay.
These are the only thing that'll change what's V1 is what's in this bus. Nothing down here, or nothing in these two rows, your preview and program rows, are going to affect anything that's going to happen in your MixFX bus unless you change it yourself.
So if we set up V1 to have our score button at the bottom of the screen,
yes,
we're going to be cutting from the A row, like that.
In some situations, yes. That's actually how I cut games when I need to have more virtual delegates. You just find ways of changing in there. What I usually set up for bigger games like that, when I said if I need to cut underneath, is virtual 2 would be effects over, net 1 or net 2, whatever I have my graphics coming in on. Typically, our score bug would be net 1.
Live text comes in on net 1 and net 2?
Live text will only come in on one or the other.
One or the other, okay.
Yeah.
One or the other, okay.
You can't split live text and do 2 different canvases the way Chiron's able to, unfortunately. One of the other limitations with live text.
So just for sake of argument, live text will probably be on net 1, I assume.
Yeah, I would assume net 1. I usually plug it in on net 1. And then I would, at that point, since I'm in effects, you're operating in your effects row. So you'd be switching your cameras there, and then on V1, you'd be switching them here.
Say that again? I missed that part.
That's V2.
Yeah.
So V2, we have effects.
If V1 has a score bug and V2 has a watermark, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'd be running my live show off of V1 and switching off the A or B bus, I guess one of those 2 buses.
It would be the B bus is what you would want, because otherwise you'd be switching above your graphic. You want your graphic above your,
yeah, okay.
So it's A over B.
Got it, okay. So I'd be cutting the game off the B bus, leaving V1 as my program, and then if I wanted to go to replays, with the watermark, I'd set up another.
You'd set up
V2 or 3.
V2 or 3 to be whatever you have your watermark in. We have it in still over like 7, because 7 would be our red. But we have it in effects, so.
Oh, so that's where you pick.
You can either have it in effects, or you could have it just set up normally. If it's something you're not going to change during the game, if you're not going to have an input change, something like that, for instance, something with a replay and a watermark, you would just go ahead and build it, leave it, set it, and forget it.
So set effects to 7, which would be red.
Well, effects is another option for B. So in the case of, like I said, if I'm doing a bigger show and I have a bunch of virtual inputs taken up, what I would program V1 would be B with my graphics over it. So it would be net 1 over B. Yeah. So this is what I'm switching in. 2 would be net 1 with effects, and then I could have that set up so I can switch in here. So if I needed to cross dissolve with the graphics still over top, I could cross dissolve cameras without ever losing my graphic.
Okay.
It's basically I'm taking the graphic and I'm putting it over 2 separate sources, so it's there until I don't want it to be. And then from that, if I wanted to lose the bug and I want to go, I just go back to my clean input as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
I think I kind of got it.
Yeah, it's best when you can actually sit down and play with it. but it's basically virtual inputs are whatever you want over whatever else you want. Right. Whether that might be graphics, whether it's, well, it's always usually going to be graphics. But if you wanted a split screen, stuff like that, that's all possible.
I'm just not clear on the effects row, how that's something I'm not completely clear on, the effects row.
The effects row, the utility row as it's labeled here.
Utility, yes.
It's basically, you would select your input to be effects on B. So your B row is effects.
Okay, I got it. Now that's the part I missed.
Yeah, your B row is you either select it as whatever your camera input is, or you select it as effects. And so when you have effects selected, that
and they switch together.
You operate both of these rows, except for this is selected to follow the effects row. Okay. So that's just one way of it's ways of expanding what you can do outside of and actually outside of the realm of just what normal Tricaster used to be able to do. It would on the old broadcast and studio days when there were just 3 to 4 input computer boxes like that, the only way to be able to put graphics over top of things would be to run it through the downstream key. In that case, the only way you're getting rid of that graphic is to take it off of the downstream key and lose it in general. There's ways, that was a problem in many ways, is you couldn't preview stuff, you couldn't see what, set up a shot beforehand, you kind of had to know what you were going to at the same time and push 4 buttons at the same time as well. So you'd set up your, you'd have to double punch take on your take DDR and take, and they've basically brought it back into simplifying it and making it more like actual switching instead of switching for Tricaster. But that's the effects row, and that covers your V1 through 8 as it's listed on the switcher. Once again, mix effects on there. And this is also another great way of, if you're doing a game and you need to cut in a game clock, if you input something like, you put a small camera up shooting at your scoreboard, you can cut it out and position your score wherever in your graphic, layered behind your graphic, and then go from there. So that's another way of getting around a clock issue as far as running clock. It does make it a lot easier for your operator to just have to focus on score and not have to focus on stopping the clock, starting the clock, and all that. So we're going to go over to our transition area, which is this wonderful little area right here. All your standard buttons from your standard switcher are there. Your take, your auto, buttons that select whether you're doing just a crossfade. Oh, I couldn't tell because we only have black up there. Yeah. So whether you just have crossfade or whether or not you're going to have a transition. So you can have all those. Your downstream key controls. So in the case that you do just want to bring over a bug over everything, or not a bug, but a lower third, something like that, you can just program whatever you want into the downstreams. Typically it's your graphic inputs, so net 1, net 2. But you could also program a DDR in there if you were to have a video file that's, if it's set the certain way, it'll cut out and just fly in and out over the video as if it's animated graphics. So those are all controllable right here. You can, just like with the media player delegates, you can double and triple punch to control all 3 at the same time, 2 at the same time, or just 1. You can also select, when you're multiple selecting, select whether everything's going to fade or everything's going to do some sort of crazy transition. I don't even know what we're going to have happen here. Yeah, so everything would take all at the same time. I'm sure when you saw it go over, everything else lit up. I usually try to keep everything fading though. These are your downstream take and auto buttons. Take takes, auto fades in and out. Those are all independently controlled as far as speed goes, as far as whatever transition effect you want to go. If you want to flash a graphic on, hey, by all means, flash a graphic on. That's going to be through your auto button. and you would select different things through here. Woo. So we're gonna get. Tricaster has, since the very beginning, always set 3 different presets for fade speeds and wipe speeds: 15 frames, 30 frames, and 2 seconds. So half a second, full second, and 2 seconds. Labeled as slow, medium, fast. Another button that is in this little area that I try to avoid because it just leads to chaos is the fade to black button, labeled FTB. Yeah, they tried to get it away from everything so you don't accidentally push it and then fade to black and can't figure out why you can't get out of black. I've seen that happen multiple times. It's a scary situation. Luckily, never during a game, only during pre-game. But obviously, your T-bar does the same job as every T-bar on every switcher ever. Up here, you have the record, stream, and grab options. When doing smaller games, you're going to be streaming directly through the Tricaster. Actually, doing all of the WCC games, we're streaming directly through the Tricaster. Probably. And for the foreseeable future, yeah, we'll call it. We are doing this through live stream currently. So the way that works is at the top of the interface here, we have 3 buttons: stream, grab, record. Record does exactly what it says. Grab actually takes a still image of whatever you have up on the screen right now at any given time, whatever's up on program. And then stream is how you stream.
Grab new?
Grab is no. Grab has been there. It's just so seldomly used that, but since it's on the board, it's on the interface, I might as well mention it. But stream is the one option. Now, I'm not hooked into the internet, so this isn't going to go ahead and bring me into the live stream website. Yeah, it's not. I knew it wasn't. But the way you would get there is, well, here's your streaming, or here's streaming settings, options, stuff like that. It's all in the drop-down menu. But since we are using Livestream actually has their own plugin. It pops up. You enter in our information, WCC at campusinsiders.com. I've almost got the password memorized. It was CIWCC99.
I'll send all the info.
I'm right there.
I'll send you the login info, the how to configure your plugin. Basically, yeah, you select the plugin there, and you put in the stream account name. We'll have already created the event, so there will be a drop down you can pick, and it would be Portland at Pacific basketball, the date. You select it, you name it again, and you basically hit go live. So a lot of the work is kind of done beforehand, but it's all integrated with the Tricaster in the live stream, so you really don't need anything other than
yeah, luckily Campus Insiders and Silver Chalice provides all that stuff for us, as far as all the information of where you stream, your route, how it's getting routed, all that other stuff. Thankfully, because that's otherwise a very big pain in the butt, and you have to type in a lot of random stuff.
Yeah, there's no like big, long, crazy stream names and,
yeah,
and entry points and those kind of things.
It's kept very simple and very user-friendly, thankfully, which is really what we want most out of everything, is for this to be user-friendly, so it's all as easy to set up, do your game, get in, get out, and get gone as fast as possible, as easily as possible, and without too much headaches, confusion, all that other stuff. There are a couple different options within the Tricaster. I would explain macros, but I'm not even fully understanding them at this point, so I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole right now. They did add a macro system in this 860. You can read about it in the user guide, which is actually very easily accessible through the Tricaster. If you go to the Help tab up here, that's on every single Windows program ever. If you hit it, actually a QR code drops down, so you can scan it with your cell phone, and it's actually going to download the user guide for you directly to your cell phone. It's an interesting read, a bit dry. But other than that, it does have a lot of interesting stuff in it. I haven't got a chance to sit down and dissect the 860's user guide, especially with the macro stuff. But what macros essentially are is you can type in something on your keyboard and it's going to fire off a couple different things all at the same time for you. Once I wrap my head around it completely, I'm sure I will use it like crazy and probably go, how did I ever live without this? But I'm not quite there yet. So I'm just going to skip past that. But workspaces, the interface is all changeable, and so is the multi-view, which each school gets a second monitor. It's actually in that Yamaha box, is the bigger one. It's the same monitor that's in the unit. That is your multi-view. There is an HDMI out for a multi-view right here. And then we also have a second HDMI out, which is program HDMI out. There's a HDMI out actually in the Tricaster, so you could send full HDMI video wherever you want with audio embedded.
I can't read all the options, but is one of those options a director screen?
That's the multi-view.
Right, I wasn't sure if you could put it on that screen or not.
No.
Okay.
No. What all these options change your interface as far as what you see up here,
okay.
But you can't make it a full-blown multi-view just on this screen. You actually have to hook in the second monitor for that to happen. But you can change your multi-view as that. So you can, when you have your multi-view, you can have only the internal sources. You can have all the sources. You can have the external sources, just program, just preview, whatever's in your frame buffers, whatever your MEs are. You can just have, whatever you want to look at. Same thing with the interface here. So if I just want to see my cameras and don't want to worry about everything else,
yeah, show me that one.
I go to external. That's what it looks like. So that's cameras 1 through 8. If I just want to worry about what's on my internals, there's that. Typically, I want to use just that one more often than not, especially in in the trucks that ProAngle has. We have the multi-view directly above me,
Right.
and that's set up for all the cameras, so I can see all my camera inputs up there, but to be able to see clearly and more closely what's on my graphics networks, what's in my DDRs, so I have everything queued up from there. Other options are, whatever my MEs are, so this would show me what each one of my MEs looks like as far as graphics are set up. And all that. Preview program, and these are just ME follows, so you program them to whatever. So this is, this is whatever ME we're following. In this case, it's 1. Does that change one? No, okay. And then the last one is your video scopes, which every engineer loves and every video guy absolutely loves as well. Your standard, your luminance, your colors, your preview, and program. So it's just, it has everything basically you need to be able to monitor and shade your cameras if you need to inside of it. Granted, I'm always going to say shade and do everything on the camera as much as possible before you get into color correction and anything like that in the Tricaster. Just because it's something you can't really do on the fly within the Tricaster. It gets really difficult because the way to do that would be to go to your camera input up in this little option here, and like I said, everything has options. So if you want to look at the camera 1 options, there's a little gear wheel that pops up when you hover your mouse over camera 1. It brings up this. So your connection, and this is where I said if you wanted to up convert or down convert or anything like that, this is where you have it. It has a ton of different options: component, composite, SDI, all of those from 480i 4x3 to 1080/30 SDI. This is where you'd have your color correction right here: brightness, contrast, hue, saturation. You can white balance it within the Tricaster. If you want to crop in some the top or bottom to give it whatever look you're going for, that's your thing. You can crop in the edges of the video. You can live matte everything. So basically, if you needed to set up a green screen, you can go ahead and live matte the input. So whatever color you choose is going to be matted out and on whatever input you have, and then the PTZ is, that's just, I'm not even going to get into, because it's the 3D digital sets. It's an option, but don't even ever worry about it. It's something you're not going to do unless you're doing a studio show that's set up and whole 9 yards. Yeah. So that's a little bit, and it's more trouble than it's worth at this point. So that's basic run through. It's in each one of the camera settings. So camera 1, whatever camera you have, when you hover your mouse over the window, I'll actually take it to just the external. So whenever you hover your mouse over the window, it pops up, and it's just a little gear wheel. And the first tab it's going to be is input settings, and the first thing on there is connection.
So if we have cameras farther than 300 feet.
Yes.
With coax.
Yes.
What you're telling me is, if you can't get the fiber,
yeah,
go ahead and run that. So we're going to bring it in 480. It'll up convert it to 720 or 1080. It's not going to look.
Yeah, it'll up convert it as best as it can.
Gotcha.
It'll still put an output of 720. It's not going to. It's going to look like it's been up converted.
Right.
So if you want to go ahead and do that, obviously fiber is going to be your best bet. It's the most expensive option.
But it's the best option too.
But it is the best option.
Then everything's going to stay the same. It's all going to be level playing field.
Yeah, it's you could take it as as far as you want. You can do baseball with it quite easily.
That's the next thing I'll be doing with this is softball, baseball.
Softball, baseball is definitely when you want fiber. And which school are you with? BYU. Okay, and I'm not sure what situation as far as the school has. If it's if they're able to sync it into the stadium, then it's even better. So yeah, if you can hardwire it, then you can just plug in, make everything easy and simple and just go. So I set this up just for the fun of it, really. This is your RTS control panel for Talkback and IFB. This is the way you talk to your talent. Right now it's working, it's set to talk through one or talk to all. Way we have Talkback set up is each of you in your audio booth kits is going to get a W cable. W cable is essentially going to, we only have one Talkback output on the back of the audio booth. It's right there. So you would only run one cable for Talkback, and then you plug it into your W, and it would be it's a W that's 1 male to 3 females. So it splits off your Talkback to all 3 talk boxes, just so you can talk to everybody all at once. This is and it's made by a company outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. Apparently it's like one dude in his basement. That's all I've been told. The man has legend around him. And if you see, it's clearly a handmade product. But it's become to the point where it's becoming like Kleenex and Telex, and it's becoming the name brand of, do you have a Daltec box instead of a cough box? It is basically what it is. There's 2 options. There's non-interrupt volume and interrupt volume. So when you interrupt as the producer, when you hit that button, either IFB1 or IFB4, you're going to interrupt whatever audio they have coming through their headset. So this would be your interrupt volume. So if you want to be deafened by your producer, you turn it all the way up, or you can balance it out. The other one is your non-interrupt volume. This is the volume you're going to hear, the talent's going to hear the entire time. A couple different options as far as plugging in headset-wise. There's either a 6-pin XLR option or your standard 3-pin for audio back into the headset. And then the other option, the 6-pin sends and receives everything just through one 6-pin converter. If you're going the 3-pin option, which is what the headsets you guys are receiving through us are, it's one stereo RCA 1/4-inch adapter or 1/4-inch plug, and that's the output of the microphone. And the back of it is very simple. IFB, Talkback out, and microphone out. So this is where you plug in the microphone input directly into the audio board. Talkback runs to Talkback. IFB runs to IFB. 3 different boxes, play-by-play, color spare. On the back of the audio booth, there's play-by-play, color, and spare, IFB, and mic inputs. And that's all controlled through this, and the whole system is controlled through this wonderful input over here on the front of this. This is your control panel for your IFB. So basically your volumes, it's 2-channel. So only channel 1 and channel 2 is getting sent out. We have program audio sent out over channel 2, and we have the PL line is channel 1. So everything that you'll be talking over PL line is channel 1 run through there, and channel 2 is program audio, so you can hear program audio in all the people's headsets, and also so your talent can hear program audio. Now, program audio, as far as talent and the IFBs are concerned, is controlled on the front of this board in the auxiliary options. The auxiliary options can be found right here. Right now it's in home, so all we have up, we have our DDRs up and our play-by-play microphone up. If we want to see what is being heard on the IFBs, you hit aux 1, and that shows us what everything is being sent back over the aux. So we're sending the play-by-play and colors mics over the aux. We're sending the stick mics over the aux. We're not sending any of the effects mics. And we're sending iPod, which is whatever music you're using, hooking into through an iPod or an iPad. 3-play audio, so red and blue. And then your stereo inputs of DDRs and transitions, which we actually have married together, so they operate together. So that's what talent would hear in their headset. That's what everybody else on the crew would hear in their headset, all on channel 2. We have set effects as 3 and 4, left and right. So when you're sending effects from the Tricaster, or from the audio board into the Tricaster, what you're actually sending is auxiliary left and auxiliary right. So 3, that's what's over aux. That's actually wrong. We would want 3-play to get theirs, and effects mics 1, 2, and 3. Or just 1 and 2, or just 1, however many effects mics you have set up. If you wanted to go ahead and say, forget it, we're not going to use any stick mics, let's put more effects mics out. If you have the microphones and you have the capability, have the cable, by all means do it. Then you would bring up whatever inputs you would have. And 4 is the same way. See, 4 actually was set correctly. And we're going to bring 3 down, match it up with 4 so they're the same.
Does Tricaster also make this board?
No, this is a Yamaha board.
So this is separate than this?
Yes. This is a Yamaha board. It's the same board we have in our trucks. It is a, what do we have, 16 input. It's a 16 input board. There's 99 save options, so you can save a whole bunch of different settings in there if you want. I think, included.
Purposes, I know where I could go get training for the Tricaster board.
Yes.
Where do I go get training for this audio board? I mean, besides YouTube.
Yeah. We can either, and I don't know if we did or not. We should have sent out the instructions.
But, you know, if you're a guy that's never done it before.
Yeah. Basically, the same sources you can get with Tricaster.
They should be able to do this.
Internet.
Okay.
Internet's always your best option.
Okay.
There's a user guide online through Yamaha. It's the Yamaha.
Google that model number.
Yeah, Yamaha
Right up.
01V
All right.
96i,
Good.
and it'll take you right to their website.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's the new way of the world, actually. So many companies are not sending actual hard copy of user guides. They'll send a DVD or a CD-ROM or something well before they'll send an actual whole paper copy. Yeah, just throw it out as a PDF. Stereo outs. When packing this board, the only thing that actually, because when I came in I noticed it was all taken apart. These never have, the mic inputs 1 through 8 never have to be taken out. The way the lid fits on, it's only going to hit your wires a little bit. It's not going to damage anything. The only ones that have to be taken out because they're too tall are all these RCAs. But once again, everything's labeled to plug in directly where it's meant to. So each one of these is labeled mic in 1, 2, 3 through 8, and these are all 11 through 15. So these are just your inputs. They're labeled as such. And actually, if you were daring enough to take this off, you would notice the back of it is all labeled as the same numbers all the way around. It was done partially for us building it, so we didn't get stuff confused. Partially for you guys, in case something breaks and needs to be fixed, we can easily identify it, go the whole line. I didn't get to the program outs that we have. They're kind of tucked in a little bit underneath your power supply here for your PL. Program 1, these are directly correlated to on the output options, what I'll show you on there. But there's program 1, 2, and 3. These are all program outs, but they can be changed if absolutely necessary. Program 1 out is a high def out. That's just the way it is. It can't be changed to anything but. It is just the high def SDI out. So that's, if you have a high def monitor that you're hooking into, great. Other than that, that's why we have the other two options. Option 2 is our analog out. That's what we actually are using to feed our program monitor. Now you guys got a Magnavox BYU. I know you'll be getting an Ikegami monitor just because we got more of those in. Just runs directly into a video in. It's analog, so you don't have to worry about any converters to high def or to anything else. Straight SDI in. And the third option is whatever you want it to be, basically. It's either follow 1 or follow 2 in the settings. We have it set up for follow 2, so it follows the second input. It is also a composite analog out. And you can get to these options when you hover the mouse over the program window here. Once again, in the bottom right-hand corner of that window, a gear wheel appears. And that's where it brings up that. And this is where you have your connections 1, 2, and 3, which are connections 1, 2, and 3. Your HDMI out, which is this HDMI out here. So that's the program out I mentioned earlier. And whoops, I keep hitting this microphone. Your stream out and your network outs. But the network outs you won't be using because you'll be using your networks as ins. The stream out, it's basically so if you wanted to stream just a camera, an ISO camera to a certain source. Don't really need to, but it's going to be follow 1 situation, so you're following program.
Can I set that spare one to be a clean feed?
I
was told there's a way to do a clean feed out as a separate out.
That would actually be your, the only one you can do that to would be 2. You can set 2 as a clean program feed.
Okay.
But so you can set both. It's with these. It's either it would be both or none.
Okay.
So if you set this to be a clean feed,
right,
you could set it to be a clean feed and have this follow 1, which would be another digital high definition feed. So it would make it the same as 1, or you can make it the same as 2.
Okay. So if I wanted to send the clean feed to my video boards in my arena,
Yeah.
I could set the second one there as clean.
Yes.
And the third one would follow the first one.
Well, you can set it to either follow the first one, or you can have it follow the second one. Or you can set it as one of the random cameras.
Is it analog only then coming out of that second one?
No, you can make it. It's the only one that gives us the option for analog.
The first one
has to be high def, high has to be digital.
The second one you can make whatever.
Second one you can make, and you can down convert it to 480. We have actually down converted it to 480 16:9, just so it flows directly to your monitor the program monitor as we have right now.
Yeah, because our video boards are standard def at 4:3.
Nice. Oh no, my school I graduated with, I ran the in-house video as well, and that's what we were with. The basketball arena just got a brand new high def board though, and I would say, of course, they waited until I finished, but that was actually when they, the school I went to Youngstown State in Ohio. They got the Horizon League, the conference they're in for basketball and everything, did the same thing that we're doing, except for on a smaller scale. It wasn't built as well, but they gave them a 3-play as well. Yeah, but the whole setup was not nearly as nice as this. They made them buy their own graphics computers and everything else and all that other. That was not supplied by the league. But that happened 3 months after I graduated.
Of course.
And I was like, you jerks. And we had been doing these little rinky-dink productions on cameras that the marketing department threw away on, people's personal laptops that we installed live techs on. It was pretty much. It was a weird setup we had going on, but we made it work.
What have we done so far with those? Have we only used one of those?
I assume so, because there's only one piece of gap tape that was
And
set.
that would have been your.
I assume that's what went up to the room.
Up to the room.
So what I would want to do is change that middle one to be clean program. That way none of the graphics come out of the video. You can't really read them anyway.
I'm just thinking, because I don't know what we've run into our replay system so far.
I'm not gonna.
But why would we just run something out of the HD board for that?
I mean, you could run the replay out of your HD because it's an HD
Sorry,
system.
not your replays. Your replay system.
Yeah,
Yeah, your Exos replays. Yeah, you can come out of that out of number 1.
We've only done one game with this, so I have no idea what
Yeah.
I wasn't even here that day.
I don't know the Exos system. Otherwise,
Yeah,
I would.
it's an HD system, so you could come out of one, which is dedicated HD, right into your system.
Is it only one input?
Yeah.
No, I mean, we can do.
Well, it
We can
takes
do
the
either.
cameras on the walls and the program for you, right?
Right.
Right.
So the Exos system, the way it works is that there's 3 cameras on the wall of the arena.
Yeah.
One shoots one half of the court, one shoots the other half of the court, one shoots the shot clock and game clock.
Okay.
And then the 4th input is the program feed.
Oh, okay.
So that would be
pull from
so
there.
number
Yeah.
1 out would be number 4 in for them, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we have a TV game, we take the TV feed and it's in
Right.
HD.
Yeah.
But when they're not here and before we have this, it's just the standard. Yeah.
But when you have a TV game, you were stuck with the graphics and everything on it as well, right? You weren't getting a clean feed, or were you?
Whatever the house would feed you, or whatever your video gets.
Which
Yeah.
We didn't care about that really.
Yeah.
You get the dirty feed.
They get, yeah. Well, in either option, you could either go.
Using both of them. Because it seems
Yeah.
like we would want the HD one.
Until you get an HD in the house, you want.
Yeah.
We probably haven't yet because we were sending this feed up to the room via the old Tricaster, which fed your Exos.
That actually works pretty nice.
I haven't used it. It sounds.
That one's real nice.
Yeah.
Replay.
You can still send your clean feed
Yeah,
to
it's
the video
perfect.
board.
Yes. Send the high def feed to Exos,
Yeah.
send the clean feed to the video board.
And then, as long as your play-by-play guys can look up and read a score off the scoreboard, you can send your third output to their video monitor for.
Third output is follow 1, right?
You could set it as either follow 1, but with the inputs that we set up for you, you're going to have to set it to, it's going to have to be analog. So your program monitor has to come out of either output 2 or 3. So if you're sending a clean feed, basically if you're sending a clean feed to your video board, you'd be sending a clean feed to your
Oh, he's used to that, I think.
to your play-by-play and
For playback?
for playback and color, which really all you really need it for is when they go to replay and stuff like that, so they can see what's going on as far as replay. Well, if you're talking, you're talking with your Exos. And
No, that
Yeah, with
Their record
graphics.
Over the last 5 years.
That
Replay
Exos
stuff like
is
that.
Just for officials.
Yeah.
That replay system is just for the officials.
Just for the officials?
Because they're just, like I said, they're just
It's like the DB
still cameras.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna have replays.
Yeah. So I would say as long as you prep your play-by-play guys with whatever readers they need to have as far as graphics go.
Well, we have a radio guy. This is a radio show.
Oh, okay.
I
So
don't need to do anything.
Oh,
As
nice.
far as that goes, yeah,
He just goes and you just take his audio then? I've done that before.
yeah. So one thing I wanted to learn is if I want to play my commercials when the radio station goes to commercial, how do I kill his audio? If he's coming in on, is there a button for that?
That
It'd be here.
would come to over here.
Kill his audio and input your audio.
Yeah, you would input, basically what you would do in that case is, since you're not going to have an announcer using there, you would run their microphone feed, whatever output, into here. So that would be, for instance, your play-by-play mic input, which goes to input 1. So basically you would just, in that case, load up all your commercials into your DDR, and you can have 12 different commercial breaks programmed in there and all the different bins that they're available. So basically you would just pod down your microphone and go ahead and pod up your DDR.
So I just pot that down, and then the sound will come out of my
You'd
Tricaster.
cut from your live video back over to that already pre-programmed, that pre-built app. Just
Yeah.
run it.
And the way it actually
Come
is,
back live to him and drop that.
the way it's actually set up right now is it's set up with autoplay. So all you would have to do is say you fade to your DDR.
Boom, here it goes.
The way we have it set up right now is because once you start the fade,
Yeah.
if it's on autoplay, it's going to start playing.
Right. That's
So,
the old Q button, right?
uh,
In the old Tricaster, Q.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, used to be Q. God, bringing me way back
That's
on
what
that.
we have now. That's what we have upstairs.
I kind of forgot about the Q button.
Yeah.
But yeah, it used to be Q, now it's autoplay.
Uh-huh.
They changed that with the first HD TriCaster, I believe. And that, once again, it can all be controlled right here. So right now we have DDR1 is on autoplay. DDR2 is on autoplay. It's also on single, so if you wanted to only play one commercial out of there,
I got you.
it would only play that one commercial.
And to change the tabs, I know there's different, like different
Change the tabs,
DDR.
you can, would be right here, previous and next preset. So
Okay, cool.
it just cycles through whatever.
So if I've got 4 media timeouts, I could just have 4. Well, I've got 8 media timeouts, but you know, maybe just use
Yeah,
the
you-
same 4 over again.
Yeah, if you use the same 4 or the same 2, it's up to you however
Yeah.
many different permutations you want to have of
Commercials.
commercials. I'm not sure how limited you guys are as far as commercials. I know when we do a show, we're pretty limited as far as the amount of commercials we have. We stick with the 2 Campus Insider W.TV commercials we have, and then the 2 institutional spots.
Right.
So if it's San Diego and BYU, we have a BYU commercial, we have a San Diego commercial. We pair one with a Campus Insiders, one with a W.TV. So we only have, we got 2 different, or
So you have 4 commercials, you just switch them all back and forth.
yeah,
At some point, there should be advertising.
yes. That is always the goal.
Yeah, you want to sell stuff. Yeah, I understand.
Always the goal is to get paid advertisements in there, and then
The local guy isn't going to care about the mom in Nebraska watching the game. You know, they're not going to.
but hey, I know, I'm not sure as far as any sponsors that you guys as a conference would have. I know Coke sponsors a lot of different schools out there, so Coca-Cola. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. National is close to local. I get it.
Yeah. So that's for smaller broadcasts, I'm not sure. I mean, that's up to more of a league thing.
Yeah, there's things to work out between what the conference, what inventory does the conference have to sell versus the school versus Campus Insiders, right?
Yeah.
And who's producing the game, whether it's a W.TV game of the week or whether you guys are producing it. And then eventually what we'll get to is we're working with Livestream now to be able to run where you wouldn't run the commercials out of the DVR. You would run them. They have mid-roll app insertion where basically there's like a box you plug in. You would flip it. You'd be like master control. You count down from break and you flip a switch that says commercials. It talks to our ad server, which has been pre-programmed with all the ads and everything in it. And then when you come back and flip the switch back to live, it brings it back.
That sounds like the best option as
We'll
far
have
as.
that for the game of the week. And then we'll slowly, eventually be rolling them out to schools. Because all the West Coast Conference schools aren't going to be doing all of their games this spring, it'll probably not be until the fall that you can get those. But it's pretty cool. dynamic like ad insertion right now is something that people are just figuring out how to do.
Yeah, it's
Across.
yeah. ESPN has their own issues with it. I know that just through their website alone. You go on their website and you accidentally click things, and you get 4 ads by accident, and then it gets stuck on the one ad.
If you watch like ESPN3, a lot of times they just run like a photo, or they don't have.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
don't have commercials.
they're still doing
MLB,
that
you
on.
don't have this broadcast will be back in this moment.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing, but people are just figuring it out now.
Yeah, well, I have an Apple TV at home, and that's how I watched all the World Series and stuff was through the Major League Baseball app on there. And yeah, that's all they did.
That's all they do.
And even during commercial breaks, you'd see them. That's how I knew that there was a completely separate broadcast whatsoever. Is you'd see them like fade back up and fade back down real quick, and then like, ooh.
Who's watching this?
Yeah, they'd like fade back into the Fox feed. Ooh, shouldn't have done that. And yeah, ESPN3 is the same way. Yeah, they put This Week in Photos up through their Apple TV app. I'm not sure exactly online if they do the same thing. Same thing with like the Watch ESPN app and on the phone. Yeah, see. So that's always interesting of an option.
I have an output question.
Yes.
So I roll in here from BYU.
Yes.
It's a WTV broadcast, and I need to get a feed. So typically, television truck, I'll go to the television truck and ask them for HDSDI with embedded audio, full program. Go to my HMR, my little Panasonic HMR 10 to record that, and then loop back out and record it to a laptop. How do I do that coming off this system? If I roll in here and say, hey, I need to have a feed, can I get a feed? Where can I get a feed off of that? If he's using the HD, if he's using the full HD there for officials replay, is there an option to do that?
That would be as long as your third input isn't being, your third output isn't being used.
Right.
You would just
Then
switch
you
it
can
over to
leave it there.
follow 1.
Okay.
So that would be another. It would be the same thing, the same output as output 1. So it would be a dirty feed, HD. In this case, 1080i.
To do that. I mean, when San Diego comes to BYU, we do that for them.
Yeah.
Gonzaga does that. We do that. I'm trying to think if Santa Clara does that.
Yeah. The other.
They'll come and they want a program feed.
Yeah. Another option. If it's just for archived purposes, if you're just recording it, would be to record it on the Tricaster and dump it off afterwards.
No,
but if you're doing live,
because we're gonna sit and edit it live. The coaches want it edited live.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be
Live.
if input 1 is already being used, you'd have to fall back to input 3 or output 3.
Okay, so now is there the possibility if I wanted to bring not a switcher, but like an amp, a distribution amplifier?
A DA? Yeah, you can actually run off of that to a DA.
Like Steel 3.
Yeah,
and
but
then
in
go
that
to an
case,
amp.
if you're going to a digi amp, digital would be better for that, obviously.
Sure.
If you're dropping it down to analog and it's an analog DA, you just have to set it up as such. But yeah, you can
So
go
there's
ahead
really
and.
only 3 major outputs off that.
There are 4 major outputs, but one's an HDMI.
Right.
So if you needed to just go to another recorder, or if you had an HDMI to SDI converter or something like that, you could
Then
take
you can take
HDMI to,
that one.
yeah, you could take that one and
So
that
in
would be your
schools,
program.
How much do you see that HDMI output being used?
Very rarely, really.
Yeah.
I know
I mean, I'm
Pacific
trying to think out
had a
loud here.
big water polo tournament. Was it last weekend or the weekend before? And they used the HDMI output to hook into their projector and broadcast it in the parking lot. Yeah, and I actually saw photos of that, and it looked really good.
So I'm just trying to think what I need to send on the road with my video guy to make sure you can get a feed still.
Yeah, if it's being taken up, a DA is one option, and then another option would be HDMI to SDI converter, which I want to say runs about $300 from Blackmagic.
Yeah, I've got one.
Yeah.
It's about $300, so I can send that with you.
That's always one option. And you can get an HDMI cable at any Rite Aid or Walgreens or CVS in the country at this point. So you're going to pay through the nose for them, but
But they have them.
but they have them. So that's one option. That would basically be your last option would be the fallback on the HDMI, and then that would, HDMI is the same way as output 3. It's either one of the camera ISOs or follow 1 or follow 2. This is just your basic editing mode, as I like to call it. Because we have given you guys scoreboards, scoreboards would be game mode basically when you'd switch over to scoreboard. And scoreboard is easily accessed by going up to the top bar here, right-clicking, and then the plugins for all the different scoreboard options are there. Each one is programmed different. Each one has have different options here or there as far as scoring and different options that are able to be brought in and out.
Softball.
Softball follows under baseball.
Gotcha. Okay.
And when we switch over, this is actually what it looks like. We're cutting off a little bit down here, but that's no big deal. Actually, you know what? Just so we can see better. Never mind. I got too many cables running.
Too many cables.
It was like, no. But this is what basically your scoreboard, you control your score down here. However many outs, 1, 2, balls, strikes, innings. And then down here is different flags, which you can't really see. They're blocked a little bit. Down here, stats, rep, sponsor, and lower third.
This will hold it up there enough.
No worries. But all of those different buttons can be programmed and corresponding to different actions that'll happen within live text when we have a score bug up. Right now I just have the basic stuff. So we have our lower thirds in here, always editable. Within the layout for the scoreboards, this is your program over here. This is preview, but there's this little button right here above the live button that's very, very crucial. It's auto that I'm clicking right here. So when you change tabs with auto not selected, it won't automatically change what's going live. With auto selected, it will. So that automatically changes stuff. When you're actually in a score bug, you have to have auto on, especially if you're not taking a clock source or plugging in the clock. If you don't have auto, the clock will not tick, because that's an update that's happening at all times on there. I'll actually bring up a scoreboard. So we'll go back to normal mode. And talk about these tabs we have across the bottom here. First, we have view. This is what basically what you're seeing up here. Safe area, wireframe, so what everything looks like without all the colors. The checkerboard, which shows you what is being keyed and what is not being keyed. And then rulers, which, the pixels across the screen. Guides, so there's guides and snaps that basically pop up if you wanted something to, you could set a grid on there, whatever, and it'll snap directly to the lines on the grid. Somewhat useful. It's best to not use that though, just because things can get a little off kilter, and if you have some selected to snap, some not selected to snap, things might get a little weird. And then the grid, there's your grid, and there's the snap option for there. And you can set your grid to be, right now it's set 50 by 50. You could set it 1,000 by 1,000 really. Doesn't make a difference, but that's to snap things to it. Text and drawing is all your text and drawing options. Your font, your width, your tracking and leading, your directions. So if you wanted to be different and left to right, right to left, whatever, up to down. So if you wanted stuff to type vertically as opposed to typing right across, if you had a slate and you wanted to have, say, actually, let's look at this. If you had something like this, if you didn't want starting to go across the top and you wanted to run around the side, so starting lineup, you could put it on the side, texting down if you need to. It's one option. Color, pretty self-explanatory. This is where you can build your gradients, solid colors, whether stuff is filled or just the edge or just a drop shadow, you can change their colors. Linear, the corners, angles, textures. Rotate stuff. Line and character, so if you wanted to rotate a line, if you wanted to rotate an individual character, this is where you would do it. And then images as well. You can load in images through there in different colors. Style, this is preset styles that were already chosen by and designed by live text. Different gradients, different textures, different translucencies, transparencies between the two. File bin is probably your second most important tab on here. This is where you can actually pull in all your graphics, all your pages, all your elements directly into it, so you don't have to go and find it in the C drive and then drag and drop it into live text. If you actually do that, it's going to tell you live text is already running. It's going to give you a weird error message. And then the most important tab, in my opinion, is the layers. Graphics basically work like most Photoshop files, which is why Photoshop is actually a great program to design graphics in. Where if you bring in a PSD, you can actually separate all the layers within it. You should be able to, if everything's working correctly and doesn't crash on you. Should. There's that key word we don't like.
Open the PSD and load it in, and it
it
should interpret the layers?
Yes.
Okay.
Other than that, you would have to flatten it down, and then that flattened image, whatever it is, JPEG or PNG, whatever you're going to use, would be a flat layer. But this is actually where you would do programming for scoreboards. I'll actually, like I said, bring in a scoreboard here. Bring in the volleyball scoreboard. So we are going to append. So here's our scoreboard. Granted, neither of these teams are in the West Coast Conference, so I apologize for that, but just kind of fill in logos that we had. So when you do with the scoreboard, everything that you have as an option within there is built on one slate. All in different layers, but it's all there on one slide. So when we go into the layers, we can see that we have the topper bar, and that's grouped together, and those are programmed for lower third. And then we have the score bar, and this is where all the different programming comes into play. So we have visitor score, visitor name, home score, home name, timeout flag, games flags, visitor games, home games, and then the period. What this does, all these different programmings above or before this are all changeable. So right there, if you double click on it, it brings up the option to change it. But the way the coding is written, the word period before any graphic directly corresponds with whatever's going on in here. So it's kind of small, but there's a little, right here it says game 4. So right now, the period button when we go into live text scoreboards, LT scoreboards, is going to change that. So we open up the volleyball scoreboard. And because of the VGA cutting us off a little bit on that side, when I click the visitor score plus button, changes the visiting score. Changes it here, and most importantly, it changes it in there. if I say our visiting team wins the first game, I hit plus a game. It changes what game we're into, so it changes here, and it changes the visiting team, gets one set up. We programmed this bar right here as a lower third bar. As you can see over here, it's not popped up. If we go ahead, oop, hello. As you can see on the preview, it's there as an option, but it's not visually here right now. If we go ahead, and we'll actually show the games so you can see that it's there. But if we go ahead and click the lower third, our lower third, whatever we programmed as our lower third is going to pop up and appear. Same thing can be done with the programming of stat bar. We have nothing programmed in there, so if you wanted to have another bar in there on another layer that is going to be nothing but scores or stats or something, you can have that. If we wanted to have our sponsor logos, such as we have a Gatorade logo and Red Lion, if we wanted to plug in our Gatorade logo and have it already pre-built in there into the scoreboard, you'd program that as sponsored tab, or I think it's sponsored tab, sponsor flag, and you would click that and it would pop up. Unfortunately, like a lot of graphics machines, there's no animations really possible. There's some slight movement that is able to be programmed in, but it's similar to the tabs as far as like our pop-up tab. It would have to be, for actual movement, it would have to be on the screen at all time, just hidden somewhere, and then it would be actuated, and it would just like slide up or slide down or slide to the left or right. Those are really the only options as far as movement goes within the graphics. Well, the basketball one we have on here is the alignments kind of got a little weirded out somewhere along the lines. So I'll use the same bug, but we're gonna switch it to the basketball option. So here's what our basketball options look like. As you can see, there's a lot more to go with. I'll bring this up here. Actually, now some of these might not work, like set and all that aren't going to change, but period still works. Scores are still going to work. Game clock. There isn't a spot for this in this one for a clock, but this is where you would also show the clock and hide the clock if you needed to fix it and go stop. There's an option for shot clock if you're really, really dedicated and have a operator with like 4 mice and 4 hands. Other than that, it's one of those things where it's kind of outside the realm of possibility. It's there as an option if you take with serial data and stuff like that. Timeouts, there's actually a TOL button, so you can pop timeouts in and out. With basketball, because there's 5 or 6 timeouts and a half, it wasn't designed to have like 5 different
little bars.
Yeah. With football, we can do that no problem because there's only 3.
But not with basketball.
But not with basketball. He didn't get the programming in for that. I don't know why he didn't. Hopefully in his next option.
Go talk to him.
Chris is a very,
Behind the magic curtain.
yeah, his name's Chris. He's a nice guy.
They're all Chris, by the way.
For some reason, I don't know what it is.
I don't know who knows the answer to this. So, the all-score CG, does that integrate with this?
That's the idea. And
Yeah.
Like, it will take the data and then be put into this form
in the
somehow?
manual,
Yeah.
they have what they call keys or tags. it would be like percent clock, percent. And that would,
Yeah.
and that would put the game clock.
Okay.
Percent, shot clock, percent.
That's
You program that, and that would take the shot clock.
That's a different programming from scoreboards, though. That's directly for live text itself, just live text, not the scoreboards program.
Okay.
What we have done is, let me go back to normal here. It comes with this program when we put in, data link.
Uh-huh.
And this is in theory. I actually haven't 100% used this as well. I know we've gotten data down here before through live text. Another TD was the one all in charge of that. And like I said earlier, we have the little converters that are serial converters, so 9-pin to Ethernet.
Okay.
And then we input that into our switch, basically.
Okay.
But it would be through here. There's different options, like I know we mentioned the serial to USB cables.
Right, that would plug directly into that laptop, correct?
Yeah, that would go directly in. So you'd go serial data,
Yeah.
and then the options, set up your boards.
CG would be ours.
Yeah, Daktronics CG, whatever sport it is, your data bits. So we'll say basketball, for instance. It's going to bring up your data bits. Then all you have to do is select what port you're going in through. That's the difficult part.
How do you find out what port it is?
Usually,
Manager or something? Or?
yeah, that would be a Windows, through Windows is
Yeah,
where
okay.
you would find the port. And then after that, you just update it, and it would be connection from there.
So that's
Ideally, how we would.
That's ideally how you would connect it, yeah.
so then from there, then once that's working, would I then use live text to create my score bugs with the percent tags with the
From my understanding, no.
okay?
It just integrates directly into live text scoreboards.
Oh really? But how do I tell it? How do I make the look and feel of it? How do I do all that?
Well, that comes as far as look and feel as far as what?
Well, like how do I if the conference is going to give me graphics to use.
Yeah.
How do I integrate that data with those graphics?
It's all in the programming that it's already, that we would do before we deliver the graphics to you.
Okay. So
For live
it
text.
would know that a weight.
Pretty much. It's like a magic little system of elves and gnomes that I can't fully understand and comprehend myself.
Just want to make sure, like, so when we set it up the first time,
Yeah.
at least we're doing what we think we should be doing and not just skipping an integral step.
Yeah.
But we still have to
Once again,
change.
to my knowledge, I'll know better Friday, really.
Yeah.
Just because I have to set it up outside of.
Graphic converter yet, but
I was thinking I would take the box and that home and go to Fry's and get a cable and see if I can make it work. Because I don't need the scoreboard, like I said, I can do the CG manually.
Yeah, and
I have
then
to have a scoreboard with it.
yeah, and with you guys, you have the wireless receiver as well
Yes,
too.
yes.
So you don't even need to plug directly into the board. You can plug directly into.
That's what I meant, I would take the wireless receiver.
Yeah.
But it's got keys on it where I can increase the score and start the clock on my hand anyway.
Yeah.
So then I can test it at home in my leisure time and see if I can get it to work. But I still have to be able to go in and change like the background colors and the logos, which I can still do.
Yeah, the background colors and logos, those are all just right here in the layering. Like the home chip.
So if I want to change that to something else, do they have to be PNGs or can they be?
They can be JPEGs, they can be
Okay,
PSDs.
cool.
I can tell you the new graphics that are just going out today, actually.
Yeah,
Ooh,
They're all PNGs.
that's fine. It's just so I know.
all
In case I
right.
don't have one, I can make a new one, and as long as it's JPEG,
We're-
PSD,
yeah.
whatever.
Because there were some stuff that were PSDs, and those were,
Yeah, we were getting a little bit of everything.
now everything is PNGs.
Okay.
Yeah, some of the issues we had with PSDs was we couldn't cut the white out of the background. So PNGs,
Yes.
white is now disappeared. It's transparent.
Olivia just got it about 20 minutes ago.
Right, so I'll have something to do tomorrow.
Oh, so anyway, so you were going to show me how to change the logo.
In that case, yeah, you would just go to your file bin, select, in this case, select will get Fresno. out of there.
Would you just hit select it, hit delete?
I just hit delete after I picked it.
All right. Find a new one. Pacific. Here's Pacific.
Yeah, so we'll put a Pacific PNG in here, drag it in,
Just resize it down. Like, is that it?
resize it.
Okay.
Whee.
It's not terribly hard. I understand.
Yeah, it's not terribly hard, and the way these chips have been designed with, it has just a white background behind it, so
That's fine.
yeah,
I get it.
just
Suck it in, resize it.
drag it in, resize,
Yeah, okay.
put it in there. Then your home team, you could change either here or directly on the graphic itself
Yeah.
with the
It is a similar to
selector,
live
so.
text, okay, I got you.
Yeah, the live text, as far as its layout, really hasn't changed too much. It's just gotten a little bit less buggy.
We've only used it for lower thirds, and that's it.
Yeah,
On the old system.
yeah. In some shows, we've actually set up 2 different live text computers.
Net one, net two.
Yeah, net 1, net 2. One would be all our lower thirds and all the other normal graphics, and then the other one would just be our score bug.
Gotcha.
So if you have an old live text,
Well, actually, I should rephrase. I use the built-in live text. On the
oh,
old
okay,
350, yeah.
okay. Well, even that's an option actually. You could take it in. You can you can network them together and use
Can I
that as
copy
a
my
source
own-
technically,
Can I-
but
Can I copy my own lower thirds out of there onto this one?
yes.
Oh, cool.
Same way as importing video, you can import graphics that way as well.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll probably make all new ones because I use my own lower thirds that I made, not the conference ones, because I got the conference ones way late, and I already made mine, so I just stayed in plan.
And they're all changing their one.
Yeah. So, and that's a branding issue as far as what graphics are going on.
Okay.
That's a little outside of my territory.
Right. I mean, in the short term, these aren't really going on the W.TV, and so you can pretty much use what you want. But as those come onto the network, we want to have just a standardized graphic.
Yeah, I will probably use what's on here now to play with it, and when you give me your stuff, then I'll make the real ones.
Yeah. But yeah, all the colors and everything can be changed within layers or directly on the canvas itself. And then, yeah, you have all your real standard options: cut, copy, paste, alignments, justifications, everything else.
Just the only thing I'm not clear on, can you show me how to change the gradient background? I've never done that before.
Gradients are kind of a pain in the butt.
Okay, I see, glad I asked.
Kind of a pain in the butt. So we're going to go ahead and select our gradient.
My way to think they used to have a black background.
Yeah.
Black background.
So you'd select that, and I'm actually going to move it. Get out of here. That's the little arrow for possession.
Oh, I got you.
So, so we'll bring both of those back in there. Home color. Bring all the way to the bottom. That way it's on top. Move it up. Couple options to do. You can either you go to color, and you can put in a new node. So, and then that is the node color option changes here, right down here in this corner. And then to change the color, that's not what I want. So you select that node, and then I'm dragging across over here. Select that, and then you change your color. We'll make it blue. And as of right now, that so you, whoops, putting too many nodes in there. Delete that out. this selected. You would go ahead and scroll all the way to the bottom, add it, and there, and now you have your gradient. And then to get it to up and down, change it to 90 degrees. Yeah, basically you have to build a gradient, you know, however many colors, shades, luminancies. Within that gradient option, add it to the pre-builds that they already have in there, and then select it as whatever you have for the option.
Yeah, that's a pain.
Yeah. A little bit more difficult than doing it just in Photoshop, because with Photoshop you'd set your gradient, go ahead and drag it in, you know, set your size.
My weight seems like it'll be black.
Now, granted, you could, for that option, you could just delete whatever the home color is every single time,
Yeah.
and take one of these gradients that have already been pre-built.
Just use it whatever closest to their colors.
Make sure I match colors close to the bottom.
Well, either do that, like, so, like I'll select number 40 here, select that node, change the color, and then you just go ahead and would put in a new square with that gradient in it, and it's there. So it's kind of, you got to build it and then rearrange everything through there, and then yeah, I mean, I wish I could say it was easier. Unfortunately, it is not. And then you just go ahead and drag it in below your below your home team name. And it's there. Well, you actually one above your team name. Whatever. Yeah, I'm actually going to just reopen a new one and discard the changes I've made.
That's fine.
Just so we're back to where we were.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, as far as stuff I had designed designated to talk about, I've pretty much covered everything on my end. So more questions?
For promos or like commercials or videos that we want to put into the Tricaster,
Yes.
is there any format restrictions?
It works best with MOV files. You can put most files in there and then import them and use the transcode, which is going to transcode it to the Tricaster's
Codec.
yeah, their codec, the VLC. And that is basically back on the sessions options page. So you would exit the live production mode, or you would do it before you get to the live production mode. And you have this three-pronged little circle here. You'd go to manage, and then import media, add from wherever. And then if it's a file not necessarily that, best for Tricaster, it's going to give you the option right here to transcode it, and then it would transcode into the best option. If you go ahead and just drag it in, basically, you go to the add button on the DDRs. I'd say give it a shot before transcoding it. If it's going to work that way, more often than not, it'll just work. But yeah, the file formats that the Tricaster records in are H.264s, MOV files, MPEG-2, and I'm forgetting something.
I seem to have read.
Yeah, most of your major codecs are going to be able to be read, though.
I think I made a mistake, because I read somewhere you could actually download the codec for Tricaster and import it into Premiere, Final Cut,
You can.
whatever. So
That
if
would
you
be
use
through
it,
Nutex.
I guess you could download the codec for the Tricaster and then output it for that, and it would automatically work.
Yeah, that would be through Nutex website, I believe, in the support section.
Because even the .movs every once in a while.
Every once in a while, we had, you and I had that one promo capper issue where it worked on the laptop I downloaded in the VLC player. It worked on his laptop right in front of me. I transcoded it. I just put it in originally, and it came up just as black. We got audio off of it, but we didn't, just had black.
See, that's funny.
And then we transcoded it into the proper format, and then we just had green. So somewhere along the lines, whatever, if it was a source file, if it was what it was outputted as,
I had one.
Just didn't like that one.
yeah, keep with your standard.
I had one play halfway through and just crashed the Tricaster.
I've had a Tricaster crash in the middle of a game as well.
Senior day video.
That's fun.
Yeah. Everyone's yelling at me. I'm like,
Sorry. Can't do anything.